The 2024 election wasn't just a battle for the presidency. On one side stood Donald Trump, one of the most criticized men on the planet. On the other side was Kamala Harris. But why did Trump's victory ignite such strong reactions? Let's go straight into it. When Trump attempted to get into the presidential race, many laughed at him.
Donald Trump will not become president!
He's not going to be president. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
And then, of course, there's Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
He will never be president of the United States.
In fact, many boldly stated that if he were to become president, they would leave the country completely.
Sky News can now call the winner of the 2024 presidential election.
After Donald Trump's victory, thousands of Americans are planning to pack their bags and move abroad. Google search data shows U.S. citizens are actively researching how to move to Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. Among these people could be Hollywood celebrities like Sharon Stone, Cher, and Jimmy Kimmel, all of whom declared they would leave the country rather than live under a second Trump presidency.
But despite this, Donald Trump once again defied the odds, securing the presidency in the 2024 election. But this wasn't just another political victory. For Christians, this election held deep spiritual significance, because this was a fight for the soul of a nation, a contest between secularism and faith. But the question many have asked is, why is it that even though most secular people disliked Trump, why did he win? Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, despite her appeal to many progressive circles, failed to capture the hearts of many Christian voters. Let's start with the first. Throughout Harris's campaign, there was very little she spoke about which the average American could relate to. She avoided the most important issues people struggled with, and instead chose to focus on promoting agendas that were directly contradictory to the things of God, such as transgenderism or abortion rights. Trump, on the other hand, focused on things such as religious freedom, putting an end to wars, cutting down on inflation, as well as getting rid of certain agendas which were highly promoted by Kamala.
No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
And of course, this didn't go well with everybody.
I can't do this anymore. I'm literally sick. I'm literally sick to my stomach.
One thing most people fail to realize is the fact that in most cases, when a person is hated by the world consistently, it could sometimes mean that the person in question is with God. Jesus said, "If you were of the world would love you as its own, but because you are not of the world will hate you." So just because Trump is generally not welcomed by most people, this doesn't mean he is the devil. It could simply mean the devil is stirring up hatred against him because he is God's choice. The most surprising aspect is the fact that Kamala Harris and her campaign spent over $1 billion and yet still lost the election.
Kamala Harris's campaign ended up with millions of dollars in debt, reportedly, and a lot of questions and accusations, blowing through $1 billion in a few months with lavish concerts and bills that still needed to be paid. Now, other political reporters say the campaign is soliciting more donations from supporters to cover the debt. Harris outspent Trump by nearly $1 billion on her failed election bid.
This means most of the celebrities who came to endorse Kamala simply came because they were paid to do so, and not because they actually believed in her.
These numbers, $10 million for Beyonce to step up and back Kamala Harris publicly. $5 million for Megan Thee Stallion, $3 million for Lizzo, $1.8 million for Eminem. I mean, is that normally how it goes? You spend $20 million, you get yourself in debt to try to get a bunch of rich celebrities on stage? I've never seen that.
If she could waste over $1 billion on celebrities, that gives you a glimpse of how the country's economy would have been run. Jesus said in Luke 16, verse 12, "If therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches? And if ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own?" Apart from this, under Biden's administration, religious freedom started getting consistently attacked. Preachers often got arrested for sharing the gospel, and in some cases, even prosecuted. A lot of agendas that did not align with biblical principles were heavily promoted. Trump's administration, on the other hand, championed religious freedom. Trump has consistently endorsed policies that align with key Christian values.
On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding.
Under Trump's previous administration, Christians saw a resurgence in the protection of religious liberties. He was the first U.S. president to host a meeting at the United Nations focused solely on religious freedom. But not only that, Harris's platform was becoming overtly secular, often conflicting with key Christian values. Throughout her campaign, Harris rarely mentioned God or expressed a commitment to faith-based values. In contrast, Trump frequently appealed to religious voters, often invoking the name of God and referencing the importance of faith in public life.
For too long, politicians have tried, and we know that families and churches, not government officials, know best how to create a strong and loving community. In America, we don't worship government, we worship God. My administration will always support and defend your religious liberty. We want all children to have the opportunity to know the blessings of God. We will not allow the government to censor sermons, to restrict the free speech of our pastors and our preachers and the people that we most respect.
In case you don't understand, America was a nation primarily founded on God's principles. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, often tried in many ways to sweep God's name under the carpet. It got to the point that she began to rely upon and trust in her own strength.
And make no mistake, we will win. We will win. We will win.
The Bible says in the book of James, "For God resisteth the proud, but gives grace to the humble." In Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18, it says, "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Harris's progressive platform failed to resonate with a large portion of the electorate, particularly Christian voters. She began to rely on celebrity endorsements and the backing of secular elites, which may have created a disconnect with those who prioritize humility, faith, and reverence for God. She often flooded the stage with celebrities, assuming that it would entice more people to vote. In a couple of her campaigns, Kamala could be seen scolding at anyone who mentioned the name Jesus.
Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
This clearly showed that she didn't want to identify with God in any way, who alone deserves the glory. Jesus said, "If you are ashamed of me before others, I will be ashamed of you before God and his angels." Since Kamala refused to acknowledge who God is, God also did not honor her on the world stage. We must always understand that one with God is often a majority. Trump may have had fewer people on his side, but as long as a man puts his trust in God, he will always come out with a majority. In Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 to 6, we are reminded, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. For Christian voters, a leader who acknowledges God and seeks his guidance is essential. Another major area where Trump differed was on the issue of abortion. For many Christians, the issue of abortion is non-negotiable. Trump was the first president to attend the March for Life, a historic event in the pro-life movement. Trump's administration worked to defund Planned Parenthood and appoint conservative justices who would protect the rights of the unborn. This is a major reason why Christians rallied behind him. They saw his presidency as a chance to turn the tide on decades of legal abortion. Where Trump stood as a defender of the unborn, Harris openly supported pro-abortion policies, even advocating for the repeal of the Hyde Amendment, which prevents federal funds from being used for abortions. The problem with Harris was that she aimed to make women single-issue voters focused solely on one issue, which is abortion. She believed abortion was more important to women than the economy, than inflation, the price of eggs and gas, and providing food for their families in safe cities with safe streets for their children. But here's a question they should consider. Does the average American woman want to have a family or abort a family? This is where she misjudged significantly.
We will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique.
That's why Donald Trump gained the support of most suburban women for that reason alone. In Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, God says, "Before I formed thee in the belly I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb I sanctified thee." In Psalm chapter 139, verses 13 to 14, David writes, "For thou hast possessed my reins, thou hast covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made." To support policies that allow for the termination of life in the womb is, for many Christians, to stand in direct opposition to God's plan for life. Traditional family values are another area where Trump gained favor with Christians. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, it says, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." The biblical model of family, a union between one man and one woman, has been under attack in recent years. Trump's policies, from supporting religious adoption agencies that adhere to biblical views of marriage to promoting policies that strengthen the family unit, resonated deeply with conservative Christians.
I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth.
This election wasn't just about policies. It was a spiritual battle, a struggle between two very different visions for America. In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, Paul writes, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Christians understand that earthly politics are influenced by spiritual forces. Trump's victory, in the eyes of many believers, was not just a political win, but a spiritual one. It was a rejection of secularism and an affirmation of the values that Christians hold dear. One of the most powerful lessons Christians can take from Trump's win is that God often uses imperfect people to accomplish his purposes. In the Bible, we see countless examples of flawed individuals who were chosen by God to lead his people. Moses was a murderer. David was an adulterer. Paul persecuted Christians, yet God used each of them in mighty ways. In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 27 to 29, Paul writes, "But God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. And base things of the world and things which are despised hath God chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are, that no flesh should glory in his presence." The lesson here is clear. God doesn't look for perfect people. He looks for willing vessels. Trump, with all of his flaws, has been used to promote policies that align with biblical values. For Christians, this should be a reminder that God is sovereign and he can use anyone to accomplish his will. So, what does Trump's victory mean for the future of Christian influence in America? Many Christians see this win as a sign that faith-based values still hold sway in the public arena. Despite the increasing secularization of society, the 2024 election showed that there is still a strong desire among many Americans to preserve the role of religion in public life. For Christians, this is an encouraging sign. It's a reminder that, despite the challenges, God is still at work in our nation. In 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14, God promises, "If my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves, and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and will forgive their sin, and will heal their land." Trump's victory, in the eyes of many believers, is a sign that there is still hope for America, as long as we continue to seek God and stand firm in our faith. As we reflect on this election and what it means for Christians, we must remember that our ultimate hope is not in any political figure, but in God. Trump's victory may be significant, but it's not the end of the story. The real work begins now. Christians must continue to pray, to engage in the culture, and to stand for the values that God has laid out in His Word. In Philippians chapter 4, verse 6, Paul writes, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God." As we move forward, let's commit to praying for our leaders, for our nation, and for God's will to be done in America. Thank you for watching. If you love our videos, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel.